Hello everybody, I'm Selective. This will be part 9, chapter 9 of Susurrus of the Subdued, SOS. Katsuki walked into the homeroom with a slight hunch to his back, hands pushed into his pockets. He moved between the aisles of the desks, weaving around the bags either hanging off the sides of the tables or on the floor to get to his seat. The blonde huffed as he slumped in his chair, pulling his bag off of his shoulder and setting it near the side of his desk. His ankles crossed as he slid forwards against the floor, causing his feet to stick out. The boy's hands still sat in his pockets as he relaxed into his chair. Despite his careless nature, red eyes flicked towards a specific charred desk. The seat that accompanied it was completely empty, an odd and unfamiliar sight to see. The nerd hadn't shown up for the past 2 days. It was strange, honestly. Deku had never been the type of person to miss school, coming even when he was sick or injured. Thereby, him being gone for 2 days in a row was strange. Turning his gaze back to the front of the room at the sound of the door sliding open, Katsuki's thoughts of the green-haired boy were pushed to the back of his mind. A woman, who, if the blonde could remember properly, was the school's counselor, made eye contact with him. He raised a brow at the gentle but pitying smile she gave him. What was that look for? Katsuki's jaw tightened as his confused look contorted into a scowl. The lady was walking over to him, sympathetic look unwavering. That type of look pissed the boy off. He didn't need looks of empathy from others. After all, he was above them, so therefore didn't need people looking down on him. She bent down slightly, putting one hand on his desk and the other on her knee. "Hey, Bakugo." The child only grunted in response, not wanting to give the lady his full attention. "Can you grab your things and come with me, please?" Her voice was careful as she spoke. Katsuki's confusion grew slightly as he looked at the woman, his glower softening into a more neutral look. The boy didn't understand why he needed to get his things, and the only logical reason, being him getting in trouble, didn't make sense. Despite his thoughts, the boy got up. He fisted the straps of his bag in one hand while the other remained in his pocket. He then turned to the counselor. The woman gestured for him to follow her, throwing another look of pity over her shoulder while moving towards the exit of the classroom. The blonde let out a small, quick hiss from his teeth in annoyance, throwing his bag over his shoulder. He allowed his back to slouch to a limited degree as he tailed the older woman. His mind raced as he followed behind the counselor. The boy didn't understand why him, of all people, was being called out of class. Was it something to do with the nerd? Mentally shaking his head, Katsuki pushed the thought to the back of his mind. It couldn't possibly be about Deku. He didn't have any sort of significance to the explosive boy's life. If it wasn't the little fucker, though, the boy didn't know what it could be about. Maybe he got an offer from some hero school? Walking towards the front office of the school, Katsuki's eyes caught an officer standing near the door. His heart sped up slightly, however, he couldn't exactly place why. The woman placed a hand on his back, diverting his attention from the cop to her while guiding him to the exit of the school, rather than the office. The previously confused look on the blonde's face returned. This one, however, was laced with a scowl. Katsuki didn't understand what was going on, and it bothered the boy. He liked to know what was happening, but they were keeping the information from him. And honestly, it wasn't that he was just upset. He was pissed. He looked towards the officer for only a brief moment before he was ushered along by the lady. "What the hell is going on?" Katsuki bit out, head whipping towards her. She used the hand that was still on his back to give him a few reassuring taps. "A few officers just have to ask you a couple of things is all." The boy's lip half quirked up in a sneer as he looked at the lady. Before he could respond, though, his mother's voice brought his attention away from the counselor. "Brat," she called out, voice unnervingly calm. The tone alone made whatever snide retort Katsuki was going to reply with get stuck in his throat. The tone she was using was unnatural and something the blonde hadn't heard in a long time. It was the voice she used when she didn't have time for them to bicker. The last time he could remember hearing it was when there was an accident at his father's work when he was 8. There was a villain attack that had caused the building Masaru had worked in at the time to crumble. The boy remembers being up in his room playing around with a few hero action figures when his mother had run in. He remembers not wanting to go and trying to fight her on it. After all, she didn't really explain past needing to go to his father's work. In the end, though, that tone made him shut up. It was the tone she used when something was wrong. The feeling that the boy could now identify as unease grew, crawling up his spine. The boy tensed while his eyes flicked between his mother's. "The fuck is going on, Hag?" he questioned. "It's about Inko and Izuku," she responded simply, the tightening grip she had on her purse not going unnoticed by her son. Katsuki shifted on the sofa within the Musutafu precinct. He hadn't got much information since the woman at Aldera had let him out. Not even his own mother would tell him what was going on. The anger he felt was growing from not only his lack of knowledge, but the atmosphere of the room. Everyone for the past 20 or so minutes had been treating him like some piece of glass that could shatter at any moment. He fucking hated it. The door to the office opened, a tall man with black eyes and hair to match shuffling into the room. A tabby cat hybrid not far behind. Katsuki scowled at the dark-haired man, not really caring for the fact he was most likely a police officer. "Can I know what the fuck is going on now?" he questioned, earning a light smack from his mother, who was sitting next to him, on the arm for his attitude. He only turned to glare at her, but took the warning for what it was and rightfully shut his mouth. The black-haired man moved to sit across from them both on the adjacent sofa, while the mutant sat next to him. The former reached forwards, placing a small recorder on the coffee table that sat between them. He turned it on before leaning back. "I am Detective Sukuuchi with Officer Tamagawa, currently interviewing both Bakugo Mitsuki and Bakugo Katsuki, involving case MPD 2026-04321 MP. Namasa looked up at the two blondes in front of him, allowing a small smile to brace his features. "If you don't mind, can you state your name before your age, just so we have it on record?" The two responded to the request. However, Katsuki answered with nothing but confusion in his voice. Why were they getting interviewed? Mitsuki spoke up, cutting off the boy's thoughts. "That woman and her son are like my own blood, so I want to know, for one, why I wasn't informed of this sooner, and secondly, what you know so far." "We can't disclose too much information as of now." She cut the dark-haired man off, voice irritated. "And why the hell not?" "Ma'am," the tabby spoke up, raising his hand slightly in an attempt to placate Mitsuki. "You must understand that this case is still sensitive. We can't give out all the information regarding it to someone that's not assigned to it." Mitsuki seemed to relax a bit, even if it was only noticeable by her son. The boy's gaze had drifted to her after her outburst, knowing far too well that that tone of voice was a strange mix of worry and fury. "Hag," he spoke up, using anger as a mask to emotions he didn't want to admit. They were a sign of weakness, after all. "Would you let them finish for Kami's sake?" The woman looked at him, anger now split. Nonetheless, she sat down, getting comfortable on the sofa. "Watch your tone, brat." Sukuuchi cleared his throat. "I know this may be hard for you to digest, but please understand that we're doing our best to find the Midoriyas." Katsuki looked at the officers while quirking a brow. "The hell do you mean find them?" The two officers seemed to pause, looking over at him with what seemed to be understanding and pity. Katsuki's jaw tightened at the looks, palms heating up. "Would everyone stop fucking looking at me like that?" he demanded, voice carrying a heavy bite. Mitsuki reached over, placing a gentle hand on his forearm. His eyes drifted to the gingerly contact. It was weird. The carefulness that she radiated was so foreign compared to her normal stern and harsh nature that it was weird. It was also damn weird. "Katsuki," his mother started. "Izuku and Inko." She swallowed, and the boy could feel her grip on him tighten ever so slightly. "The other day, the police went to their apartment to check up on some things that Izuku was doing, and..." "Huh?" His mouth curved up on one side, nose scrunching. "Deku's." The detective perked up at the name. "A fucking goody two-shoes. Why would he need some "Let me finish," the hag spoke up, cutting him off. Her voice was stern, but it lacked any real bite. They couldn't find either of them. The words didn't seem real as they left Mitsuki's mouth. His palms grew moist, sweat practically boiling as it mixed with nitroglycerin. "What?" was all he could seem to get out. Sure, he wasn't close to the nerd, he hated him, but the fucker wouldn't be stupid enough to run away, and Inko wouldn't take him somewhere to disappear off the face of the earth. Mitsuki gave his arm a gentle squeeze, the sympathetic glint in her eye being disregarded this time. "We understand this may be hard for you," Tamagawa spoke up, bell ringing uncomfortably loud as he leaned forwards. "It's not," the boy bit out, head snapping to the feline. "He wouldn't fucking disappear like that. He loves Auntie." Tsukauchi raised a brow, body language showing interest. "What do you mean?" Katsuki scoffed, shifting where he sat. For some reason, the sofa felt uncomfortable, the plus seemingly too suffocating. "The nerd loves Inko. He wouldn't just up and leave." "Anything else you can tell us about him?" the detective asked while flipping open a notepad, attention now split between the Bakugos and his pen as he jotted notes. The boy would rather do anything else than talk about Deku, but something in his mind was urging him on. Overall, it was surreal. Never once before had he had to think about Izuku beyond his drive to be better than him, beyond the fact he was better than him. Now, though, he had to recall information he's gotten off of Deku through the years he's known the parasite. He's annoying and creepy. He could feel the hag's gaze on him as he spoke. He wasn't about to censor himself, though. These were his thoughts, and the police wanted them. He's always muttering to himself about whatever comes into his shitty mind, or writing notes about people in his stupid notebook. The notes. Tsukauchi started, interest peaked. "What are they about?" Katsuki quirked a brow, silently wondering why they were interested in the nerd's notes. "Usually they're just about quirks or pure stalker shit." "Do you have any idea how many he has?" The blonde kid thought back to the latest notebook he's seen from Deku. "Like 13? I don't fucking know." The detective nodded, looking to his colleague and handing him a note that had been quickly written down and torn out. The tabby had read it, nodded, then shoved it into his pocket. Katsuki could only look at the two in slight confusion before he was being questioned once more. "Alright, moving on to a different topic. Where was Midoriya Izuku seen on Tuesday, May 16th? The detective asked, flipping to a new page. "Hell if I know," the boy replied. "The extra didn't show up to school." Tsukauchi's mouth pressed into a line as his gaze moved away from the notepad in favor of looking at Katsuki. "What do you mean?" "He didn't show up. It was fucking weird." "I take it he doesn't do this often, then." "The nerd comes to school even when he's sick. He usually never misses. Something about a hero needs good attendance or whatever. At least that's what he said when we were little." Katsuki's eyes rolled once he was done speaking. Both the tabby and the detective seemed to still, and the atmosphere of the room seemed to shift. Katsuki adjusted his position on the couch. He wanted to be a hero, Sukuchi said carefully, almost like it was some fabrication of some alternate timeline. The preteen scoffed, arms crossing as he slumped into the back of the couch. He ignored how his palms stuck to his clothing from moisture. That's all he ever talks about. He even wants to get into UA, be like All Might. The detective looked at him for a long time, before turning away and dragging the pen tip across the paper, writing down the information. Thank you, Bakugo. He then turned to Mitsuki. Do you mind if I asked a few questions about Inko? Mitsuki nodded while Katsuki looked away, tuning out their conversation just as soon as it had begun. His mind lingered on Deku, though. Why were the police needed at his house? Why didn't he show up at school? His palms released additional nitroglycerin, the product of his quirk seeping into the fabric of his clothes. He wanted to release it, expel the tension buzzing under his skin. However, without Deku around anymore, he didn't have an outlet. The boy's body froze. The nerd was missing. His stomach twisted awkwardly as his mind drifted to the implications of Deku not being around anymore. He wouldn't have to deal with his mutterings anymore, wouldn't have to hear the weakling talk about unachievable dreams, and most importantly, not have a shadow following him 24/7. He had finally gotten what he wanted. A scowl laced with the embodiments of a frown found its way onto his face, his heart beating unpleasantly in his chest. Katsuki didn't feel like he won. Alright, everybody, that concludes Part 9, Chapter 9 of Susurrus of the Subdued, SOS. Please make sure to check out the Discord if you haven't already. If you would like to get updates easier, get connected with people within the fanfiction community, make requests for a podfic, and more. The link to the server will be in the description. Now I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.